We discussed well at the last meeting 465. Now you have a substitute. If you would explain the changes.
Thank you, Mr. I'm going to be talking to you today about House Bill 465, that is LC 5603331S. And let me also iterate, Mr. Chairman, your guidance on this bill along with the GBI and our legislative council. A lot of times we submit bills to legislative council, but they took some very TLC loving care in helping to adjust the language. A lot of the language that has been substituted in this bill reflects upon Maddie's Law. And it gives us a credence on how, when the alert goes forth, those persons, once again with the GBI, will be involved in guidance on instruction. And so I want to go into a couple of parables. If you turn with me to 35 and 94 through 98 specifically, and that's 35, 94, lines 94 through 98. And it just says, before requesting activation of the alert system, the law enforcement shall verify the criteria. And I want to emphasize verify the criteria. What is the criteria? The subsection of code section 353176 has been satisfied. You know, a lot of times we have members that are missing from our family, but in the wake of someone that's autistic, there is a criteria that would require them to activate this alert. Law enforcement, the agency shall assess the appropriate boundaries of the alert based on the nature of the disabled adult, medically endangered person, or person with autism, the spectrum disorder, and the circumstances surrounding. So they can look at exactly what is happening. There are different types of symptoms of individuals, that what they suffer, whether it's non-communication or whether it's delusional features of not knowing where they're at, etc. Lines in section 35, 103 through 113, it just focuses on, again, reiterating the state agency and being the GBI that will be participating in the alert system. Where it says cooperate with the Bureau, of course, we're talking about the GBI again, establishing a plan in section 2, utilizing a rapid response. They will determine the rapid response telephone system that alerts residents in a target area. That, once again, you're looking at convenience stores, et cetera, but they will determine that rapid response. And lastly, in 112, any activation of the alert system for missing persons with autism spectrum disorder, the pursuit, this article after. So a lot of the language is in the form, not just Maddie's law, but it also focuses on specifically who will determine the alert, who will initiate the alert, how the alert is done, the public service announcements and all the above to educate the public. Once again, this is a bill that not just will save lives, but it helps also law enforcement on the protocols of how to handle the situation. I was told there was a gentleman in Tybee one year, and I think Chairman Petrie, you remember this, that was kind of disillusioned. They didn't know how to handle them. And it was no one's fault. It was just an unfortunate situation. And so we want to prevent any other, upcoming possible situations. So kudos to the GBI for helping us amend this language. And that's all the changes that it speaks to in reference to this bill, very similar to Maddie's bill.
Thank you, Representative. And I do remember that individual became a real big story. And the individual with autism, they didn't understand his behaviors, but his behaviors were related to his diagnosis, and they felt threatened, but that's because they didn't understand him. And that's what I love. I'm going to call attention to something you've already called attention to. The real meat of this measure, because we're basically inserting this in Maddie's law. But if you go from 112, lines 112 to 121, the specifics you're speaking to are so important. So, and GBI is here, but I'm going to say this, and I think I'm correct here, but there's going to be local, like it says here, guidance specifically to that individual. So as we discussed at the last meeting, water is a common theme for individuals with autism to migrate to water. That's a huge issue we have to read. That is different than other diagnoses, so that the awareness that this individual has autism, the awareness of what that might mean as it relates to migrating to waterways, and then on line 120 in particular, the distinctive behaviors, and that speaks directly to the Tybee example and many others, where there may be distinctive behaviors about an individual that someone who hasn't had experience with individuals with autism may not understand, but if they know in advance, it can change the outcome. So I think you've done a great job here, and let's answer a few questions. All right, number 25, is that Representative Scott? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Gilliard, for bringing this bill. I don't really have any question, but at the appropriate time, I would like to make a motion for due pass.
Yes, ma'am. Very well. All right. Any other questions from the committee on, and then we have a couple of comments, and then we'll come back to that, Representative Scott. Any other questions? All right. We're going to have a few comments. Miss Amy Hughes at the podium. We'll just do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. My name is Amy Hughes. I'm with Hughes Public Affairs, and I represent the Matthew Reardon Center for Autism in Savannah, Georgia. The chairman has been a huge supporter of the Matthew Reardon Center. It's the only full-time, year-round day school that's accredited to work with children on the autism spectrum. And what they do is they help kids who were unsuccessful in the public school system. They come to Reardon for a couple years. They get the necessary therapies and services and help with their families, to help bring their families along with them so that they can be empowered to go back into the public school system. But another thing that the Reardon Center does is their mission is advocacy and education. And tomorrow, Jackie Smith would be here today, the executive director, but they're having a big conference in Savannah about autism education, at which a lot of law enforcement professionals will be there, as well as education professionals, to help people understand how people with autism might present differently. I was thinking about, I'm very grateful to Representative Gilliard for bringing this bill forward. About a year ago, actually a year and a half ago, I was down at Jekyll Island, and I remember looking up and seeing helicopters and all sorts of police cars and things, and it turned out a young man, a 16-year-old boy who had autism, he was at a church camp, at the 4-H camp, and he went for a walk. And so they found his body the next day, and he had drowned in the ocean, and they found him in the ocean. So I think about this type of alert system and how that might have been helpful in that situation on that state park, if you had called people in the state park and been able to say, be on the lookout for. So I thank Representative Gilliard, and I thank this committee for passing this important legislation.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Very helpful comments, and another reminder of just on the coast. I mean, that the representative just mentioned Tybee. You mentioned Jekyll. I mean, and the list goes on, right? All right, Miss Ariana and Miss Anita, the two of you, if you'll come to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ariana Botain, and I am the Chief Clinical Officer at Atlanta Autism Center. And we are a therapeutic and therapy organization. We serve young children with autism, so 6 and under. And I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Anita, and I am a parent of an autistic child who is 8 years old. I also work with Ariana. It's just so important to have these type of bills passed, because it's truly a mother's worst fear of having a child, especially on the spectrum, not knowing how to advocate for themselves. And this bill would save lives, honestly. And it's just, it would definitely change the outcome of any situation. So I really am thankful for this bill, and I'm thankful for this opportunity. I hope that we continue to implement these type of policies.
Thank you, ladies so much. Thank you. All right, we have a question, number 28. We have, is that Representative Gamble? Representative Gamble.
Have we done that?
I'm sorry, I got to look over here.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. And to my friend, Representative Gilliard, is it appropriate, Chairman, for me to ask him a question? I know I came in just a few minutes late. Okay, all right. And I did have a chance to read this bill before I came to committee, and I apologize for being here late for your presentation, but I do appreciate this bill and what you're trying to do. I have a constituent who has a son with autism, and we've been talking about how we can help to provide more support for him in what they deal with on a regular basis, and I think that this is a great way to do something. And so I've been talking to her about what you're trying to do here. They're very appreciative, and I just wanted to thank you for bringing this bill to us.
Thank you, Representative Gamble. He has definitely a popular measure here. I'm proud of him. This is my brother from Savannah. So, all right, it appears there's no further questions. So, Representative Scott, you had asked when the appropriate time was. I think we have found it. And she is what number are you, Representative? 25.
Okay, Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we do pass.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Well, I didn't think so. All right.
Thank you,
Representative,
Mr.
this
Chairman.
bill is
Thank you
passed.
to the distinguished committee.
Thank
you.
Yeah, proud of you. All right. And that is our only bill today. We are all adjourned. I know we have other